Let's unbox the deluxe Black Series 6-inch figure of Boba Fett from the Mandalorian series, Tython Jedi Ruins version. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there. Thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. This past weekend, we met Boba Fett himself, Temuera Morrison, at our local Armageddon Expo convention. So to celebrate, we'll be unboxing Boba Fett collectibles this week. And I'm very excited. Today, I'm going to be opening up the Black Series Deluxe 6-inch figure of Boba Fett from The Mandalorian, specifically Chapter 14, The Tragedy. Of course, he does wear two outfits in this episode. We first see him in his full Tusken robes. This version is when he finally gets back his Mandalorian armor from Din Djarin, who of course got it from Cobb Vanth. Ever since we first saw Cobb Vanth wearing this armor, we knew that at some point we're gonna have to see Boba Fett return. So this was such an epic episode, finally getting him back with his armor and of course taking on some stormtroopers in impressive fashion. So of course this one is labeled as Tython, that is the planet we see him on, and Jedi Ruins, just to differentiate it from the other Black Series figure, which is simply called Boba Fett Tython. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up very soon, I'll of course take this figure out so we can take a closer look at all of the details and accessories. But first, let's take one last look at the packaging. So of course, I do feel a little bit conflicted about packaging Boba Fett as a deluxe figure. Once you put all of his accessories on him, he does look very much like a standard figure. I guess because we have a little bit more accessories here, they have decided to just widen out the packaging and put him with all of the pieces around him. But when I think back to some of the other Mandalorian characters like Axe-Woves, we do see them with a helmet and a jetpack and everything all packaged in a standard size. So I guess we're paying a little bit more for the deluxe price point because this is Boba Fett and he is a little bit more popular than some of the other Mandalorian characters from the show. Of course, excluding Din Djarin himself, he tends to get the deluxe treatment from time to time as well. Because this is from the Mandalorian series, we have that great orangey sandy color accent stripe there. For the title there, it says Star Wars The Mandalorian, and we also have that color used here for the character title, Boba Fett, in brackets Tython, Jedi Ruins. A lot of text here as that's repeated in a few different languages. I really like the artwork down the side here. He looks quite severe and menacing, doesn't he? We've got Boba Fett here with his helmet off, with his blaster pistol raised behind him, and we can just make out his jetpack here at the side, and he's got a clenched fist here. Of course, we've got that accent color coming in here at the bottom, and then it says Boba Fett Tython Jedi Ruins. Interesting that we've got so much texture on the side. Usually we have a character name and then something in brackets to denote the different variation here, but we've got all this extra text here. A little bit muddy here with having so much text. I do prefer it when it just says Boba Fett, maybe Tython Jedi Ruins in one line, but nevertheless, it's good that we've got that differentiation there. The color stripe across the back, this is number 22 from the Black Series of Mandalorian series figures. We've got an insert here of the art from the side. Very nice. I really like the pose here. Of course, we have a few Black Series figures of Boba Fett, so they've got to mix it up a little bit. I like this pose here. We also have a little bit of a blurb of Boba Fett here. Once regarded as one of the most fearsome and capable bounty hunters in the galaxy, Boba Fett seemingly met his demise in the Sarlacc pit on Tatooine. A survivor to his core, Fett lived to fight another day. And then we have that window wrapping around the side. We also have a little bit of a window in the top there, letting in light. I think it looks pretty nice if you do like to keep your Black Series in the packaging. Pretty tidy all round. We've got all of the accessories nicely laid out, but I do think it's time to get him out. I think we're going to really have some fun checking out all of these accessories, so it's time to open them up. So now I have the figure and all of the accessories out of the packaging, we can start taking a closer look. And first impressions, I really like all of the details to it because this armor is the very pieces that we see Boba Fett wear when he enters into the Sarlacc pit. Then we see Cobb Vanth wearing it. it is quite worn, and it really gives it a really interesting damaged sort of texture to it with all of this silver weathering. It's obviously gone through a lot, and it translates really well into Black Series scale with all of this sort of silver weathering. It's like all of the paint has been eroded with the Sarlacc stomach acid, and we're getting that silver Beskar sort of underneath showing through. It's kind of interesting that Cobb Vanth didn't repaint it in any way, but I think it's fun because then we see Boba Fett go and repaint it a little bit. By the time we see him in the book of Boba Fett, he's looking a little bit, you know, a bit more spiffed up and shiny, but I think this is really, really fun. Obviously, he hasn't had the time to fix it up. He just puts it on Tython and gets ready to take out some stormtroopers. I think this is just fantastic. Of course, those iconic Boba Fett symbols are still visible. We have that emblem there on the top of the chest, and we have the mythosaur symbol there on the shoulder, almost kind of scratched away. I really like the weathering effect here. That's really quite fun. The shoulder pieces are yellow, so the painting comes across quite nice and tidy. Sometimes when these shoulder pieces are painted yellow, like on the vintage collection 3.75 inch figures, sometimes it can turn a little bit muddy when we're putting so many layers of paint all over. I really like it here on the yellow plastic. It just reads very nice and clean there. Very fun. And of course, we've got the weathering on all of the hard Beskar armor components to his outfit there. So we've got this fantastic silver weathering. None on the back. Of course, it's pretty much going to be hidden by the jetpack, which we'll take a look at very shortly. But it's just easier to see the sculpting and articulation details before I go and put that jetpack on there. We can see those attachment points there very clearly in the back. So yes, the weathering doesn't cover over the shoulders. We can see those pieces there are just flat green. The weathering is all contained here on the chest, the shoulder pieces, and the gauntlets. But of course, the lower half of his outfit here is what he is wearing in part of his his Tusken Raider robes. So we've got these big flowy pants, a sash here at the front and at the back. On some versions of this figure, particularly the vintage collection 3.75 inch, this is done with a soft goods component. In the Black Series, this is done with plastic. We don't have soft goods here. Personally, it's always a bit of a mix whether a plastic or soft goods is the right technique for it. This one here, I like the sculpting. I think it hangs very nicely. It matches very well with the plastic used for his flowing pants here, so I quite like it. And it does give us a very nice and tidy join here. Sometimes when you go and put soft goods around the waist, we get sort of cords and stitching, and sometimes it's just a little bit busy. I really like the sculpting here. It looks very nice and tidy, and we still get some nice draping. We've even got sort of a bit of a weathered edge there. You can sort of see the crimped edging. It's not just hard and flat. We've got sort of that, as it were, it appears to be a raw edge. You can kind of see it's like knife teeth, serrated sort of edge there. Very nice. And the color is a very good match to the pants underneath. We've got some very nice paintwork here on all of that ammo on his belt there, like the metallic hues coming through. We've got two-tone browns there. We've got some very nice textures, the sort of the cording underneath his leather belt there. Very nice. We've got a holster here, which is this actually attached? Yes, it is attached to a strap around his thigh, so that's going to fit very nicely along his legs there. We can see the sort of sculpted leather belt and buckle there on the back. Well, very nice. And we can see the lower half of his sort of vest coming down here in the back with all of that sculpted detail. Very nice. And of course, because this is his return of the Jedi armor just post Sarlacc, we've got the pale under sort of vest component here. It's all white, and then we can see that sort of continuing here in the back, and we also have the white braided sort of tubing that joins into his gauntlet piece here as well. Later on, he switches these out for a very dark brown / black under sort of vest here. So this is this very brief moment in time where we see the Disney Plus live action version of Boba Fett wearing his sort of original original trilogy armor sort of set up here. It's very fun. I love the detail on it. I just taking in all of this weathering. I think that's really fun. Can be tricky. sometimes making things look weathered. Sometimes it just looks like it's been applied over the top. It's always a fine balance. And I think this really does look like when you've been playing with your toys too much and the handling has worn off the paint. It really does. I know the silver is applied over, but it's just a really good effect. And I like the shine of it too. It does look like worn metal. I think that's really nice. And of course, we've got some yellow knee armor here. We've got gray spats over his iconic original boots there. Really nice detail. Very cool. And of course, we have to look at the portrait here of Temuera. Of course, this is a little bit of time since he has escaped from the Sarlacc pit. He has his time with the Tuskens, so his sort of wounds here on the face have healed a little bit, but this is before he has spent time in his Bacta tank like we see him in the Book of Boba Fett. So I really like the paint effects here to show his scarring. It has a sort of a white cast in the show, and we can see the very fine, very faint sort of white digital printing along where his scar lines are over his face. I really like that. It can be hard to do sort of extra effects on character faces, particularly on the scale. Sometimes it looks way too much. Sometimes it's so faint you're wondering if your eyes are just tricking you. I can see a little bit of sort of red accenting some of the scar lines there. And of course, Temuera as Boba Fett doesn't have any hair, so that does make it a little bit easier to put the helmet on. So let's get the rest of his accessories all together. I'm going to start off with his jetpack. Of course, when we see Boba Fett on Tython, this is when he is just getting his original trilogy armor back after escaping from the Sarlacc pit. So we have his Return of the Jedi jetpack here. And of course, we've got that vibrant color pattern. When we see Boba Fett next in the next episode, he has already repainted his jetpack and his armor. So this is the one episode where we do see this very striking color palette here. Blue, yellow, green, red, white, lots going on here. And of course that silver stripe. I like the weathering here. Again, we've got that silver on the high points. And again, it kind of gives me the impression like it's been worn from handling. And all in all, pretty tidy. We've got 3 attachment points for this one. The main peg, and we've also got these little slots because the back of the figure has 3 attachment points. So the little jet exhaust parts do move, which is good, so you can angle them. We don't have any sort of flame effects or anything to insert here, but I think this looks like I think I can pull this out. There we go. Whoa, that was in there quite tightly. We can take his top rocket out because of course we do see him fire it in the episode. So I like that. We've got that option there, fits back in there. So let's go and pop this on his back. This is the one time we see this sort of blue jetpack with the new Boba Fett. So let's see, it's a bit of a tight fit. It's kind of sitting out a little bit more than I'd like. I think that's going to take a little bit of pressing to get that really on there firmly. You can kind of see on some angles I can get some light through there. It's not quite as tight as some of the other versions of the jetpack that I've come across, but it is on there fairly sturdily. I just feel like I might knock that every now and again. But yes, I do personally prefer his green one like we see him in the Book of Boba Fett, but for long-time fans of Boba Fett, especially in the original trilogy era, it was really fun seeing him with his iconic original color scheme. Boba Fett's one of those characters that's gone through a lot of different options, especially now with the live-action series. It feels like he changes his outfit just about every episode. So there we go. It looks really cool. And I'm glad he does balance, because that's a lot of plastic to stick on his back. Something I really do appreciate about the Black Series is that they do balance very well, especially when I've been opening up vintage collection ones, the ankles and just the way those ones balance. The sturdiness of Black Series means that you don't have quite as much issue posing them, I find. So next up, the helmet. I love this helmet. This has so much weathering on it. This is so fun. And it's a little bit sparse on the top. I'm going to have to go back and look at some screen grabs because I don't know how closely Hasbro really tries to match up all of the weathering. You know, you could go crazy trying to match up every little scratch. I don't envy the Boba Fett costumers that try and replicate this particular helmet. There is a lot of weathering going on, but the paint underneath all of that silver weathering looks really tidy. Very nice black in for the visor. We've got, of course, that dark red maroon color around the edges there. We've got the orange striping underneath there as well. Silver down the sides. We've got a maneuverable rangefinder, something that's really nice. Of course, we don't really get that on the 3.75 inch figures. They're just a little bit small for that feature. And I can see the very, very fine dots. It might not even show up on camera for the digital printing used for this silver. So lovely. I really like this version of the helmet. We don't really see it that much. We see Cobb Vanth wearing it, but this is just this one episode where we have Boba Fett wearing this very weathered version of his helmet after he has escaped the Sarlacc pit. Very fun. So I'm hoping that this is going to fit on over his head very well. It is a little bit squishy, which does tend to help. Putting it on, you can kind of pinch it in whichever direction it sort of feels like it's going to stick on. And because Boba Fett's outfit in the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, he has this sort of fabric, sort of sash, cowl neck. So his head doesn't actually move too much. Sometimes when I'm trying to put helmets on, their heads just want to move around. His chin kind of hits it. So we don't have quite as much articulation here because his chin is going to hit at these sashes, sort of the fabric sculpting here. But it does mean that when we get the helmet on, it kind of, oh, that fit on really nice. Okay, let's see. Oh, and there goes the jetpack. I'm hoping that it will hide his chin a little bit. You can kind of see that it's, I kind of want to push it down and it's going to sit about there. Sometimes these helmets take a little bit of wiggle to make sure that the chin is completely hidden. And I think I've finally got that on. I don't see the chin too much all the way up underneath that. But yes, being able to sort of press it down with the chin resting on that fabric sash means that I can kind of put that on. And wow, now we can finally see the helmet and the chest piece all together. I love that silver. Of course, he was packaged with the helmet off. So you've got to take him out of the box if you want to see him all dressed up. Very, very cool. I can hear his theme music as he's sort of marching towards stormtroopers on a Tython. Fantastic. And as I suspected, this one is just fighting with me a little bit on the back. Usually those pins fit in there very nicely. This one's just, might be my particular plastic. Sometimes all it takes is a few little extra little layers of plastic and there's just a bit of resistance. So I'm going to be a little bit careful about that one. It's definitely a little bit more prone to falling off. So I'm just going to rest him there for a minute. Let's take a closer look at his blasters. Okay, so it's not, sometimes the weapons in the Black Series have sort of a nice metallic finish to it. This one's looking just a little bit like a dark gray. And we've got some brown paint here, just that one accent color there. I'm hoping he's going to be able to hold it very nicely. This feels quite sturdy. I've been recently unboxing vintage collection versions of Boba Fett and they're very rubbery. I'm actually really enjoying the fact that this is much more sturdy than the vintage collection accessories because those are very hard to get into his hand. And of course we have his single blaster pistol here. I like the gaps. We've got some nice detail here. Very small, very fine. Again, in that same sort of dark gray. This one I think has got a little bit more of a speckle, a little bit more of a gunmetal finish to the dark gray, and we've got brown on the grip there. So he does have a holster. You know what? I'm just going to put his jetpack on the ground. It feels like it's going to fall off. So I'm just going to see how well he's going to hold it in his hand. Because I feel like because this one is a smaller handle, might hold this one a little bit. Let's see how well I can get this under his hands. No, he's going to fight with me today. Okay. It's very, very stiff in his hand. The grip's actually a little bit bigger in his hand than I was thinking. Okay, I'm going to spend a bit of time working with that pose, but for now, I'm just going to quickly check it in the holster here. I do like the texture of this holster. Very nice, and we've even got that sort of stitch line, and that fits in there very, very nicely. Very nice. Okay, so before I try his rifle, I'm just going to check out some of the articulation, because this tubing, of course it's accurate to his costume, but I'm curious to see how well this might affect his ability to bend at the elbow. I do like how well we can get his arms up here. Sometimes if we have these sort of extended shoulder pieces on the costume, it can affect how well we can get the hands up. It's got a little bit of flex to it. I can see it sort of pressing there, but it doesn't actually stop, and it doesn't bend as much as I thought it might. It actually, I can move his arms very easily there. So we'll check out his articulation here, because of course, let's see, is that going to pull a little bit? Oh, that one's hitting a little bit here. There might be a spot where it's going to be, it's kind of pulling. Might have to, yeah, this cord here is just pulling a little bit on his elbow. I kind of got to pull it a little bit to the side. Oh, that's, yeah, I'm going to have to play with that one. I was a little bit worried that this one in particular, I have to see which way I can flex his elbow. That's going to take a little bit, because I really don't want to stress that. You can see it's just pulling. Oh, that makes me a little bit anxious. I really don't want to break that, because I don't feel like I can pull this out. Maybe? Can I feel like that's glued in there. I don't want to stress that one out. I'm going to spend a bit of time working on that pose for his arm. But let's check out the others. As I expected around the waist, we've got a little bit of movement there, but it's kind of stiff, bit clicky there, not too bad. We've got that upper thigh articulation here, which to me is kind of useful that it's there, but at the same time, it kind of breaks the sculpting of the pants. I know that's not Hasbro's fault that we have these big flowy pants. This hides very nicely under Stormtrooper and Clone Trooper armor, because the armor kind of hides that line very well. But on these pants, it's just kind of this ugly line. And then if we actually move it, everything misaligns immediately. But it can be useful if you like to create interesting poses. So I do know that that will be appreciated for some collectors. So pretty standard at the hips there. We can get pretty good range of motion. And we've got that interesting sort of billowy pant articulation here at the knees. It's a little bit awkward, but I can't really think of a better way that they would be able to do this. So we've got this big piece kind of hanging down here where we can see the knee armor just poking out from underneath. And we've got these very big sort of articulation pieces here in the back. So we can see how that is going to work there. It's a bit dark. And we get to about there. So you can fully see the knee armor and how the pants are going to sort of sculpt. They don't really sort of flow, but of course this is plastic we're dealing with. If they were soft goods, it might work a little bit better, but also they could just look like a bit more like clown pants if they were done in a soft goods manner there. Let's check out the articulation here at the foot. Oh, very stiff. Very stiff. Got a little bit of movement on that foot. That's kind of stiff there. And I do find on the Black Series ones, this knee armor can sometimes be a little bit tricky when trying to sort of fit the knee back underneath if I've been moving them around. So hopefully that's going to not be a bit weird. And I'm just really going to have to work around with these boots. This one's definitely going to be one where I'm going to be playing with the articulation to get some poses. So I might spend a bit of time seeing if I can get this arm to hold his blaster rifle, because I really do want him to hold that accessory. So I've spent a little bit of time working out some articulation here for the elbow, and for my particular figure this is about as tight of an angle as I'm willing to stress that tubing there. I know that there will always be a little bit of variability with where these are attached and just how flexible mine is. I don't want to pull on this any tighter, so this is about as high and as angled as I'm going to stress his arm. As you can see, he does hold his blaster pistol very well. Once I sort of finagle his fingers in there, he holds it very nice. And I do like the way that we've got those options in his hand and in the holster. It's always fun when your figures can hold their accessories so you don't lose them. The grip on his hand is very good. He's got that trigger finger extended, and we've just got a bit more of a classic grip on the other hand. Of course, we really want to see how well he's going to hold his iconic blaster rifle. So let's see if I can just very quickly get this one into his hand, or will this one be another case of let's spend a bit of time getting him to hold this one, because these fingers are very tight. After spending a little bit of time, I can finally get him into the pose that I'm really happy with, holding his blaster rifle there. And it's pulling just a little bit here, but not too much. So overall, I'm very happy. I do find that it does take me a little bit of time to get the accessories into the hands of my Black Series figures. They do hold their accessories very tightly, but I like that they are very secure. This isn't going to just drop out of his hands and get lost at some point in time. So I'm really happy with it now. He's got everything all together. We can see all of the weathering and costume details. He just looks fantastic. One of the things that I was really keen to compare once I got this one out and fully assembled is comparing this Tython Boba Fett to the other Tython Boba Fett, because of course he has two outfits in this episode. Of course, this is how we first see him, and then he gets his armor, so he loses his robes, and yeah, now we have him in this cool version here. So of course, because these are in the same episode, we should theoretically have a lot of the same costume components. So here we have the same brown dark pants with the sash, the same boots. He does have his knee armor in this figure because of course now he has his original armor. So we do have those components which are not on this version, but everything else is pretty much the same. Even the same belt is on both figures. But the color of it was really sort of playing on my mind, especially after opening this one. There are some shots where it looks very black, and certainly in the Book of Boba Fett, I think of him as wearing black. So I was kind of curious. This one here is the Book of Boba Fett throne room version of Boba Fett. And you can see this one is fully black. Now, if I compare these two side by side, this one has a brown under tunic, brown pants. This one looks almost pretty much identical from the belt down, different belt, but this one is a true black, which I think was really interesting. And now I'm going to be going back and looking at screenshots to see if it does actually change color. Is this dark brown in the Mandalorian and then he switches to black? Because those are exactly the same pants and sash and everything. I just thought that was quite interesting. The cording, the tubing on the elbow of this figure just fit a little bit better. I was able to kind of articulate it over the elbow. I could get into a bit of a tighter angle there. And it's interesting to see just how different the armor looks with his repainted version versus his sort of post-Sarlacc weathered version. Really fun to see these two side by side. And now we have a very nice lineup here of 3 different versions of Boba Fett. And while we're here, let's just pop off their helmets so we can see the faces here all together, because of course we've got a few different stages. Overall, I'm pretty sure the sculpting is the same, but we've just got a little bit of different sort of weathering between his sort of scarring up from the Sarlacc pit. This one here, my particular Tython robes Boba Fett, has the more whitish weathering on his scarring. Then we have a little bit here because of course this is the same episode. I was kind of expecting to be the same. This one has slightly fainter weathering, not quite as much. And then here, this is the Book of Boba Fett series. We still have a little bit of white paint effects around his scarring, but not as much. He started to heal up a little bit over time. But it's really fun seeing all of these all together. There are so many different versions of Boba Fett's outfit. I need to add in one with his Book of Boba Fett where he's wearing a black version of his flight suit, not the Tuscan robes. There's still more versions out there to add to my Black Series lineup. I think these look so fun all together though. He is such a cool character. It was so fun meeting Temuera this past weekend. So I'm having just so much fun going through and opening up all of my Black Series Boba Fett figures so I can put them all together. Got such a fun collection going here. Now I got to open up some of my other Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett figures to really sort of flesh them out. Of course, I need Fennec, and I really hope that Hasbro will make more figures from the Book of Boba Fett series. I need Garsa Fwip, Mok Shai's. I want more. I think it was such a fun show, and I really want to flesh out my Book of Boba Fett set there in the Black Series line. Some really fun designs here and so many different versions of Boba Fett to collect. If you're a Boba Fett fan, it's a great time to be adding so many different versions of him to your collection. Certainly did explode out. We had a few different versions from the original trilogy, but now we've got just so many more. Very, very cool. And so many different versions of his iconic helmet as well. So I'm just having a lot of fun. These are 3 really cool figures. I think it's really fun to see them all lined up and very interesting to see all of the different details. The pants and the sculpting is all pretty much the same, but interesting to see this one is true black. These ones are dark brown. The face sculpts between these 3 is really interesting. And of course, we can see all of the clean details here that are kind of hidden by all the weathering on that earlier version. Really fun to see them all lined up. This was a lot of fun, so thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Boba Fett Black Series figure and had a lot of fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Black Series fan, I recently unboxed the Boba Fett Tython robes figure. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as our whole Black Series unboxing playlist. This is the way.